Coral reefs are beautiful and filled with life. But just beyond our normal visibility lies a whole world of tiny creatures hidden amongst its fold. You just have to look a little closer. We're off to Indonesia, to the Banda Sea. These waters were once home to the Dutch traders who came to the Spice Islands in the 17th century, introducing the world to nutmeg. Today, they are home to a vast diversity of interesting marine animals that inhabit the coral reefs, and we're here to photograph them. Our home for the 3 weeks we spent diving in the Banda Sea was the luxury yacht Pelagian. Our cabin was comfortable and spacious, as were the rest of the facilities, including the dive deck and camera stations. The crew, under the command of Captain Matt Hedrick and dive masters Larry Smith and Graham Abbott, helped us to locate the tiny critters that live on the reefs. Without their expert guidance, it would have been impossible to photograph them. This was a special trip, celebrating the 80th birthday of underwater cinematographer Stan Waterman, winner of 5 Emmy Awards and the grand old man of the diving community. Lying just below the surface of the water surrounding these lush islands, the pristine coral reefs of the Banda Sea are a virtual candy shop for the macro photographer. But first, you have to find the little critters. Our first subject is the pygmy seahorse, which is almost impossible to find without expert guidance. At just 1/2 inch in length, the camera magnification is so high that keeping a steady hand is quite a challenge. During mating, the female will deposit mature eggs into the male's brooding pouch, where he fertilizes and incubates the eggs until they hatch. Unlike other fish species, only a few offspring are produced. Pygmy seahorses come in several colors, consistent with the host sea fan in which they dwell. A close relative of the seahorse is the pipefish. The banded variety is fairly common in the Banda Sea and come in a variety of colors. Instead of fishy scales, pipefish and seahorses have bony plates just beneath their skin. Besides providing protection, these plates make the body rigid in some species, like this robust pipefish imitating a floating leaf. This causes them to swim by fanning their delicate fins at high speed, much like a hummingbird. A lucky find for us was this rarely photographed, winged pipefish hiding in a small cave. It's very early in the morning, just outside the hotel on the island of Banda Sea, where a colony of magnificent mandarin fish make their home. The males are displaying their best poses, showing off in order to determine mating rights. By nighttime, pairs have been established and the ritual begins. The female joins the male, resting on his pelvic fin. They rise slowly above the reef, releasing a cloud of eggs and sperm at the top. Other males spend their time sifting through the sand, extracting small morsels of food. Perhaps tomorrow will be more exciting. At only 3/4 of an inch in length, this starry dragonet is out for an evening stroll. It is clear from the shape of the head that it is in the same family as the mandarin fish. Nudibranchs, which are perhaps the most colorful of all the underwater creatures, are favorite subjects for the underwater photographer. The name means naked gills, which are exposed in most species. Having no eyes, they rely on their rhinophores to provide sensory information. Nudibranchs, which are members of the mollusk family, evolved from snails millions of years ago, discarding the protection of the shell for more mobility. Most resort to the use of chemical warfare to ward off an enemy, secreting a toxin which is fatal in some species. The colorful appearance warns would-be predators that they are not a tasty meal. Nudibranchs are hermaphroditic, meaning they possess both male and female sex organs. They exchange sperm through protruding tubes on the sides of their bodies. In most species, eggs are laid in rose-like egg masses. Incubation of the eggs can be up to 50 days, but normally is much shorter. Lifespan depends on the species and is generally less than 1 year. Perhaps the most interesting of the species is the solar-powered nudibranch. It eats corals containing algae and then farms the algae in its own body, consuming some of the sugar produced by photosynthesis. They are so efficient that they seldom need to feed. The brown spots are the algae farms. Many fish and invertebrates live on the sandy bottom. In fact, several shark species can be found resting during the day, until a pesky photographer disturbs their midday sleep. This prehistoric-looking 7-foot animal is a tasseled wobbegong shark. Well camouflaged, it waits by day for unsuspecting prey, venturing out at night to feed on octopus, squid, crabs, and reef fish. Although it looks quite peaceful, these sharks have been known to bite aggressive divers who insist on yanking their tails. The leopard shark is also a docile species and is usually quite shy. Unlike pelagic sharks, which need to swim in order to breathe, these more modern bottom dwellers have developed a jet-propelled gill system to aid in oxygenation. We have obviously disturbed his daytime rest, but he seems quite happy to pose for our camera. Another great find is the epaulet shark. This one is only 2 feet in length. Like all sharks, it must either swim or sink, lacking the gas bladder which most fish use to control buoyancy. Usually solitary, the epaulet shark lives among hard corals and grassy areas. It feeds at night, sifting crabs, worms, and shrimp from the sand. A close cousin of the shark, this blue-spotted stingray is also a resident of the sandy bottom. Like all sharks and rays, they have no bones, only cartilage. It swims just above the seafloor using its advanced sensor system to detect crustaceans hiding in the sand. Another bottom dweller, the flying gurnard, drifts slowly over the seafloor, using its enlarged fins as wings. The modified pectoral fin spines enable it to dig through gravel searching for clams, worms, and shrimps. This is a mantis shrimp, specifically the orange spearing variety, looking out from its home in the sand. This species uses specialized raptorial appendages to capture and subdue prey by spearing them. The force of the strike of a large one approaches that of a .22 caliber bullet. Another type of mantis shrimp is much more colorful and is a smasher, using heavily calcified clubs to subdue its prey. They are more active during the day, roaming the reef with the confidence and defiance of a neighborhood bully. When we approached this one, we were surprised that it remained unusually still while we photographed it. On close examination, we saw that it was fanning a brood of eggs by rapidly flapping the plates on its underbelly. Mantis shrimps have the most sophisticated visual system in the world. The eye contains 16 different types of photoreceptors, with 12 for color analysis. Humans have only 3 color receptors, or cones. They can see polarized light and 4 colors of ultraviolet light. A very cool animal. Scorpionfish are usually hard to find, but this variety, called a raggy scorpionfish, appears to be showing off his vibrant color. These two are more traditional in color, blending in with the sand. They are out for an afternoon stroll. The crocodile fish, which can grow to 3 feet in length, is well camouflaged as it lies on the bottom waiting for prey to wander by. The large eyes are covered in lappets, which help break up the black pupil and thus improve its camouflage. Indian waspfish, like leaffish and robust pipefish, use their shape and color to mimic a floating leaf, in the hope of avoiding predation. Generally, sea cucumbers make pretty boring photo subjects, but the coloring, shape, and texture of this one is outstanding. Gobies are a favorite photo subject, and this Steinitz goby with its partner shrimp are no exception. The almost blind shrimp does the maintenance work for their common home, while the goby keeps guard. Like all gobies, the twin-spotted goby sifts through the sand for a tasty morsel. Since it lives on the sandy bottom, It has no gas bladder and cannot swim like an ordinary fish. This pair of gobies strikes a handsome pose for the camera. There must be something tasty in this sandy clump of debris. We are entering the harbor at Banda Sea, which was the center of the Dutch trade in nutmeg from these fabled spice islands in the 17th and 18th centuries. Nutmeg was not only used for cooking, it was thought to cure many intestinal, kidney, and liver disorders. Today, it is an ingredient in Chinese medicines as well as in several Western ones. The English, anxious for their share of the Indonesian spice trade, established a fort on the island of Run, not far from this Dutch fort on Banda Sea.
Run Island was owned by the British, and Run was the last holdout for the British, and they were still producing and transporting, selling the nutmeg and the spices, and they were upsetting the monopoly of the nutmeg and the spices controlled by the Dutch. And so the Dutch wanted Run Island very bad, and so they made a deal with the British, and they said, look, we got this here island over in the New World, and the name of that island is called New Amsterdam, and we'll make a deal with you. If you'll give us Run Island where we can control the monopoly on the spices, we will give you New Amsterdam. And the British signed the agreement, and New Amsterdam later turned into Manhattan Island.
Arab spice traders came here hundreds of years before the Europeans, who first arrived in the early 16th century. After massacring or enslaving much of the original population, the Dutch colonists converted the islands into a plantation economy, worked by slaves from all over Asia. Although Banda Sea is still a minor tourist attraction, the present economy is based mainly on fishing and pearl farming. Gunung Api means fire island in Indonesian, and it is a very special place in the Banda Sea. It is inhabited by sea snakes. Lots of them. Hundreds or even thousands of them, and we are here to film them. Sea snakes need to breathe air and come up every 20 minutes or so to take a breath. They live on shore during the breeding season, laying their eggs on a sandy beach. I like snakes, and they seem to be comfortable with me. Cuttlefish are very curious animals and often come over for a closer look, especially when they sense a gentle nature. They have striking W-shaped eyes, which provide binocular vision like a human. To focus on close objects, they contract their eye muscles to push the lenses forward, away from the retina. To focus on distant objects, they relax the muscles. Cuttlefish have minute hairs along their head, which can detect low-frequency vibrations and aid in finding prey. They also use their tentacles as a lure to attract small fish. These tiny crinoid cuttlefish, only 3 inches in length, are holding steady in the strong current so that we may take a good photo. Another member of the cephalopod family is the octopus. If the octopus is disturbed, cells in the skin will be active in an attempt to blend in with the surroundings. These cells consist of 3 bags containing different colors, which are adjusted individually until the background is matched. Coloration also reflects mood: white for fear, red for anger, with brown being the usual color. It learns to solve problems by trial and error. Once the problem is solved, the octopus remembers and can solve it and similar problems repeatedly. The squid, like all cephalopods, uses jet propulsion for motion and can squirt ink at its attacker. The ink, however, is also toxic to the squid, which must escape the area of its release. This interesting creature is an upside-down jellyfish. Unlike its pelagic relatives, it stays close to the reef and is often seen resting on the sea floor, resembling an anemone. Bumped-head parrotfish resemble a herd of buffalo. Using their beak-like mouth, they bite off chunks of dead coral, grinding it up and filtering it through their systems. Along the way, algae and small crustaceans are extracted for nourishment, expelling the residue in the form of sand. How much sand? According to one source, a single parrotfish can produce 5 tons of sand in a year. That's a lot of sand.
It is an honor but which few achieve, a distinction but which few obtain. Go forth now in these bonds, knowing well the best days of your existence are yet to come.
Yes, we have crossed the equator, which entitled us to this special rite of passage. I am not sure that the crew is all that enamored with the initiation ceremony. There are not a lot of Westerners coming to these isolated islands in the Banda Sea, and we were warmly welcomed to partake in a little local shopping. Children are curious and filled with laughter all over the world. They are happy to see us and to show off their free diving skills. Healthy reefs are important to the well-being of these islands, providing the villages with their main source of protein, fresh fish. Fishing baskets do no damage to the reef. The ravages of World War II did not escape the islands of Eastern Indonesia. This P-47 aircraft, on its way to the U.S. Air Base in Serang, was forced down during a thunderstorm in October of 1944. The local villagers looked after the crew until they were picked up by a Catalina about a week later. The Banda Sea is home to a vast array of colorful marine animals, keeping our cameras rolling for the entire 3-week trip. Let's start with this clip of the largest school of yellow shrimpfish I have ever seen.
The Banda Sea is a magical place for the underwater photographer. The reefs are healthy, and the variety of fish and vertebrate species is outstanding. In 3 weeks of diving, we were able to capture images of some of the most sought-after photo subjects in the sea. Special thanks go to Larry Smith and Graham Abbott for finding them, and to Stan Waterman for sharing some of his wonderful footage. Happy birthday, Stan.